So hello everyone, I'm on to take a look at my review of Games episode 12, the final episode, right? This is like one of the least final episodes of an anime I've ever seen. Especially to do away something. Season 2! It's like, it was like really fun episode, but it's like, man, like, something? You gotta conclude anything? Some kind of misunderstanding. The phone call thing is still not actually explained to anyone, right? It happened in episode 10. Yeah, that has been completely overlooked. That's actually pretty irritating. To be honest, I hope that could be really could be resolved into that part. This episode felt it was so weird too because they went back. They felt like they went back like 10 episodes because the first 3 episodes were more about the game, right? Then it was his red ship, basically. And suddenly it's like, whoa, there's a lot of game references. I mean, it was a fun episode. A lot of game references. The first before the intro, with the puzzle guy was like a lot of anime references. They had to come back to be sure, right? Dead or Alive, I would call out for that, has the same name, right? So it's like, is Dead or Alive here? And so on, and yeah, the Sundar sister, all that was it's a bunch of great, it was like really good the first minute it was awesome. And then, yeah, it's a lot of different game references on during the episode, right? And it was a fun episode, but wow, it included nothing. Like, they tried to, like, it felt so weird, because it felt, as again, that they kind of moved back a bit. So Tendou and Amano are dating, that's of course still there, but everything else felt like they were more like, what about the phone call, what about this thing and so on. Chiaki's point, Hishima Chiaki, she didn't do anything with the episode, yeah, she was just kind of there, right? It was a fish scene of course, but generally she was just kind of there, so I don't think the episode was that fantastic. When it comes to the narrative and like the storytelling, it was just kind of like a filler episode, right? It's kind of, this episode could have been between them dating or whatever. It's like a weird episode in the middle here. So really, really weird. As a final episode, it feels extremely lackluster. Still really, really fun. I said again, very, very comedic episode. But as a narrative, as a drama, and so on, storytelling, it was like, wow, this episode had nothing. So that is a weird episode. And yeah, it's like filler fan service, right? Like the last 5 minutes were like, okay, they're naked at the bath place or the onsen. So yeah, we get the classic like spa onsen episode. We see the girls half nude with weird angles. So really weird final episode. Really weak in that sense. But yeah, like sure, it had a lot of game references, a lot of anime, some anime references on. So let's go with them like generally scene by scene then. So beginning of course, I said again here, we have the puzzle guy. And suddenly he's like, oh, I'm a tournament player now. And he's new, there's no memories, fighting some bad guys, saving this beach lady, and they can live with her. And it really gave me a whole lot of Hayate combat with that thing. Especially too because I mentioned it during my live reaction, I was like, Eiichi, isn't that kind of the name of the brother to in like Dead or Alive? And I looked it up and was like, no, his name is like Ieni, or something like that, yeah. But he's either called Ieni or Hayate, right? And Ieni is actually very similar. And of course Hayate as in Hayate Combat. So I was like, man, it has to be a point in this thing. They're both called Hayate. They both have no memory. Like it has to be something like that, right? Like, and he's called it. I was like, some reference there. Of course, there were a lot of different like weird game references. Like, I'm gonna fight you now. Like it's a bunch of different like different kind of anime game, like some Yu-Gi-Oh, filler and so on, right? And of course, the sister is super Reiko Gama, Queen of Sundari character. She's like, I hate you, but I kind of love you anyway. Like classic, like yeah. She looks like a mixture between what's her name? Lotta and of course Nagi or something like that. Like a mix between those characters for sure. So and after that, yeah, that's a weird part, right? And after that, you just kind of get to the bus ride and then go to gaming. And I liked the Aguri part though. Was like, okay, yeah, this is like you're idiots. Why are we going for a trip to play PS4 games? We can just play them where you are. Like, what's the point of the trip? And that episode, I think it was funny, but man, it's kind of fascinating to watch it because it's like the worst introduction to a game ever, right? I mean, I have myself, of course, I'm a gamer, you know, I play a lot of games, right, since all my life. And of course, obviously, I've tried to force my mom into it, my brother into it, you know, so on, right? No, but of course, right, of course, you try to deduce games, different games, or you know, games in general, or of course anime and so on, that's with different friends, both at school and later on, of course, growing up and so on, right? And the co-workers later and stuff like that, of course. And this is definitely, I would say right away, it was funny, but I felt that was a little too much disbelief, to be honest. I have to say that because even though it was funny, and I know that they're stupid and they're bad at like understanding and they're good at confused stuff. It's like, are they serious now? Are they going to introduce her? But talking about DLC, it's like the worst possible way, right? To introduce someone to the gaming generally. Yeah, it's like, oh, we have this thing called DLC. Like, yeah, so I think that actually, why it was funny, yes, fast for a bit there, because this is so unbelievably stupid. And I think it's unbelievably stupid in the sense that, so Amano is stupid when it comes to like girls and, you know, friendship and like general communication between people, right? So yeah, it kind of makes sense it's bad explaining stuff to people, but so I get that he would be better explaining the way how stuff works. But he should understand then where it comes from, right? So what I mean with that is that he should know that, okay, I can't explain this good, but my goal here should be to explain that games are fun because the challenge or the narrative or the freedom as later so on. So he should know that, like, the mechanical wise, even if he can explain it, DLC is how we should start, right? The fact that was actually out of character for all of them. For all the games character here, they all, of course, would be like, yeah, DLC is just like a necessary thing in the game, blah blah. But none of them should be like, oh yeah, DLC, that's the best part of gaming. You know, I'm not saying that. I mean, I work in the game, so don't kill me. Yeah, I'm gonna get fired now. No, it's like, I'm not saying DLC can be bad. I actually also asked some after 10 minutes, so they mentioned a part of good DLC parts. And I think one thing that we see with DLC is an expansion pack. I mean, I was growing up, I was buying expansion to everything. Diablo expansion, Balkan expansion, you were buying expansions to everything piece of gaming. And there was never an issue doing that. And that's a big difference from that and kind of weird DLC we see, you know, every now and then, right? Like, obviously, mainly the first day DLC, the most people hate, right? So I think that when they were talking about, like, no, but it's great because you play this game and you love this game, and then half a year later you can play a little more of it, because, and you pay like like 500 yen and get a little more of it because they use this pack. And that is something completely different. And I also personally, in my own, like, you know, videos and games and so on, which I really like. Yeah, like that's great. We can add into, so we made this game, right, and then we add in another chapter, we add in some extra dungeon and so on, right, that we couldn't have time for that. And yeah, that is great. So obviously I say that because I should buy my games, but no, but seriously, like, if I currently work on a strategy game and it has this many races and blah 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 and so on, right, and obviously if that game is like, oh, it has a big market, people are loving it, we of course are gonna make more, like, oh, a new race, okay, but then we probably have to take money for that because it takes us like a few months to do all the graphics right, to do all the codes and so on. We can't just do it for nothing, right? So it's a big difference having, like, okay, the game has 10 races the first day it released, 10 factions, whatever, right? Yeah, and then you have 2 of them being like hidden by DLC, versus it has 10 and we don't have anything more, but we're still working on the DLC, right? So yeah, and then like 3 months later you can get the DLC for like, you know, $5 on that. That's a big difference. And so I mean, there's one thing to like DLC, and I hope you like good DLC packs. But even if you love like the swimsuit DLC that was on, this episode was, I think, it's a little too much this super, right? Because it's like, oh, we gotta tell my girlfriend here and my best friend, like, she's been, I would say that Aguri is my best friend. So you're gonna tell her that, okay, we're gonna get into gaming now, you're into the gaming trip, and let's start with DLC. It made no sense. It really made no sense. And while it was funny, it was fascinating to watch too, because it was just too stupid sometimes. When they're like, oh, but think about this thing, so on. But otherwise, I think, but yeah, I want to be too nitty. I did enjoy it though. So some parts, I think the author made it brilliant. The algorithm is like, so you're buying clothes, swimsuit clothes, for a DLC character, the DLC clothes, for your character in a game. But you won't buy clothes in real life for yourself. So they're like, oh, but like this is inventory, it's my inventory. They're like, you guys are idiots. Yeah, that was great. She was like, but Tasco, you never buy. I was like, I'm dating you, and you're wearing the same T-shirt for like 3 days now, and instead you bought a T-shirt in a game. It's like, come on, like that was brilliant. That's spot on, right? That's spot on, because it's kind of like I don't buy much DC myself. When it comes to like costumes and so on, I buy more like, you know, like for example Neo. I'm playing Neo has a great DLC back. You get like you get a new weapon, you get a whole new area in the game, right? So a couple of new bosses and so on. That's like a good like expansion DLC pack. So that's something I would buy more to say like, oh, I want to buy this so I can look in a red and have a blue color. Not my biggest thing. But so that's a good point though. So I can still relate to it. Like, yeah, it's kind of weird sometimes when you have your priorities. It's like, I bought this thing or this new game, I probably should have bought food instead. I was like, yeah, been there. Not maybe the worst thing, but it's a good reference. And generally, the grind thing was great. She was like, so you just play the game? Because one thing she mentioned very greatly is that, and I reached this a lot, I'm talking a lot about this with my old professor, that so when you look at people who play games, they aren't always happy, especially children can be quite frustrated and be like, oh, this game, yeah, and kind of thing, but you still play them. So why are you saying they're fun when you aren't actually enjoying them? And that's something I think she was spot on, I agree. Best girl, I agree. I say kind of best girl, yeah. I was like, nah, I hate her, yeah. But she was really spot on that thing. So I felt that, unfortunately, I felt that the anime's author or whatever, the script writer and so on, the first thing there, the question was really spot on. But the answer was horrible. I think that actually was disappointing to me. Because that's a great question. How I could play here, like, yeah, this is blah blah blah. But the expression was like, oh, you don't just, yeah. The expression was just horrible. I was just, yeah. The expression was so bad to it. They was like, oh, do you see Aguri? They're like, yeah, like that is horrible. Obviously, the answer should be something like, well, when you play these games, you're frustrated because they're really hard, and if you were too easy, when you actually when you compete and you beat the obstacle, you wouldn't get that epic win feeling if it was too easy. So that's why you're frustrated doing it, because it's really, really hard, and you finally overcome the challenge, right? Then you're really happy, and the harder it is, the happier you are. So that's kind of the successful award feeling, that the interpersonal feeling that, oh, I did something. Something's really good. That's actually one of the major bits you read, like Reality is Broken. Great book about this. Like that's one of the big reasons why by McGoliel or whatever. Yeah, I'm sorry, I pushed the name. His name is Jade. Anyway, Reality is Broken. Great book about this epic wins, and it's like that's a big thing. What games are successful in today's industry, or generally all industries, because it's a big industry. Because people in normal days, we just kind of live now. We go to work, go to school, we do home, we do this thing, and we sleep. I mean, the assembly line, that thing, right? Just do this thing back and forth. A lot of people are tired of that. A lot of people are bored in the day-to-day life. They're not going hunting anymore. There's no war in many countries, right? People got bored by that. So one thing you never feel in life, a lot of people don't feel in life, is that you succeed in stuff, right? Even if you get the promotion and so on, it's kind of like that might be a big thing. But for many people, it's kind of like you just go to the assembly line, you do your stuff, and you go home. You never get like, this kind of massive feeling of I won, yeah, like that thing. Or even if it has to be a player game, even if it's a PvE game, or I beat this boss, but it's really hard, like 100 level dungeon boss. It's an amazing feeling. It took me 3 weeks to do it right. That kind of the achievement feeling, yeah. That's something very special that games can give people today, which I'm happy to, of course, because I love hard games. I love making it hard, yes. I'm like, yeah. So I'm happy to do that, of course, to provide that. And that is something they should have spot on there. So I think it was actually pretty bad writing there, because she gives a really good question there. Because that is a question you, as an observer from the outside, you will see people that doesn't look happy. Like, why is he enjoying this thing? Why is he buying more of that thing? Yeah, it's a great question actually. But the answer was like, oh, you don't understand the DLC. It was like, the question was completely horrible. And later on then, we get Tendou trying to explain to her, like, oh, but I'm a masochist, it's like you're a hentai. Like, you sound like a hentai, Tendou. Yeah, that was great. She was like, oh, but you get this feeling. She was like, so you're a sexual like fetish hentai, they like be punished. Yeah, okay, no thanks. Like, yeah, so they tried it later, but I think right at that moment, Tendou, they should say something. I think that was bad, I think. That was bad. A lot of people could say that. I mean, Tendou's part later, that was funny because the way she explained, it's like, oh, but they tortured you, they punched you in the stomach. You're like, oh, yeah. It's like, you're standing in front of me naked and like doing these weird faces, and it feels like you're a complete hentai. No thanks, Tendou. Like, yeah. So, I think it was, it had some good moments with Aguri, because she's a kind of observer character, right? She's a supportive outside character gaming. So they had some good questions, but I think most of the answers were pretty lackluster. So I think the episode was generally funny, but it frustrated me, right? Because I feel like, man, these characters aren't that stupid. I think, again, like I said, these characters are really bad communication, they're misunderstanding people and so on, but they know their games, right? So, like, it was made much more sensitive. Amano is like, okay, I know what his answer is. I know the answer. I know the answer is enjoyable because of X reason. I know the answer is this thing. But how can I explain that? He tries to explain that thing, and he understood. So the Tendou part at the spa, the onsen, where she's like, oh, but really hard games are the best, so you buy this DLC to get the extra difficulty, because then you get even more tortured. Oh, it feels so good. It's like, that was great, because that's what I said, trying to play something, it's an actual an actual emotional of happiness, like an actual goal as a player, as a typical gamer. And but by explaining it, she sounded like she was talking about sex, right? Yeah, so that was a great point there. That was the best point of the episode, where he's trying to explain it, and it completely fails. And they're naked, of course, too. And Aguri is like, "Are you hitting on me? Like, it's like you a perv, get away from me." Yeah, it's like you're just confusing me a lot now. Yeah, that was a great point. And then I wish they could have done that in every point should have been that. Every point should be Amano trying to be saying that. No, but this is good because of this thing, and he does it really bad like he usually do, and it would be funny. But they didn't do that. Instead, they went for this really weird, like trying to make DLC happen or something. And I was like, are they bought by Orc Sister or something? Because I know they heard of Orc Sister. They did a lot of DLC. They love DLC. I was like, is this just like someone's like make DLC be good or something? But it wasn't even that good as played either. It's like they didn't want me to be. Oh, I gotta buy this now. It's like, this is weird, yeah. So, all in all, episode I think was funny, but it wasn't that good. Some reference to the last point here. I loved, of course, the Ika Tendou, and I guess it's Ika Tendou because if you ever watched Ika Musume, she's like, when I'm in Ika Musume, she believes she is an galactic Ika in the episode. So she's like, shouldn't you be called galactic Musume? No, I'm always Ika, like, which makes no sense. But she like said, it has to be Ika Tendou. That being said though, they are in space, so I guess it's actually Galactic Ika there in the reference. That was definitely the best part. I was like, yes, Ika Musume! This is what I want more! But yeah, that thing was funny. And so hentai, it's so weird. When Chiaki's like, oh, but the epilogue should be that they turn into fish people. And that's what good to Aguri. It's like, oh, Aguri, I was talking about this like fantasy role-playing game. It's like, yeah, I got that. That's not the issue. That was great, because I mean, Aguri isn't stupid. Like, she doesn't like games, but she understands generally the other one, right? So she's like, oh, no. I'm talking about this like fantasy world, Aguri. Like, yo, Lord of the Rings. She's like, yeah, I figured that out. That is not why you sound like a complete hentai right now. Stop talking about this. And she keeps talking like, oh, but everyone wants fishing thing, and then like fish in space, and they're like, what's wrong with you? So the Chiaki part, I mean, she had pretty much non-role at all the whole episode, right? And then the end is like, I wanna see this like fish on fish sexual stuff, and they're like, this is weird. So that it felt like a really weird filler-ish fantasy episode, right? Like her instead of developing that phone call thing that they had 2 weeks ago, they have her for like 3 feet for minutes. You're talking about like weird fish stuff, human fish hybrid in space fighting and something, and it's like, what is happening? Like, that's the only thing she had in the whole episode, right? It's so weird. What a weird episode for a final episode. It's really, if you take a typical transmission episode, you would expect gamers to coming next season. The episode is like, it's a complete filler, right? That feeling to it. Especially that still, because it's the onsen to the most typical fan service place ever. And she's like, it's so nonsense. The part was amazing, but still very sexualized, right? But it was very funny. Yeah, that's a great moment there. And then Chiaki is like, what? So yeah, weird episode. I liked it for the comedy as I mentioned, but nothing else really. Last point then, it was kind of cute though when they were trying to be in the bedroom here as well. They were trying to sleep with Amano. I was like, oh, you can do that then. Yeah. And then of course Aguri as well, and Chiaki's on the wheel there being like, oh yeah, no one sleep with me. Life sucks. Then I just ended right. Well, okay, one thing though. Again, we have the Amano and we have a few Amano and Aguri moments. And then Aguri was kinda getting it. Oh, I can buy digital Tasco stuff, and that was pretty funny. So, I mean, the episode was funny, but it was only funny, right? And had some good references, like Ika Musume and Hayate Combat and so on. Had some good anime and game references, but it's a weird episode, especially the last episode. I was like, wow, this was one of the weirdest ending I've ever seen. And I have to say again there, the episode's main plot too is like, we're gonna convince DLC. It just didn't work, right? I can't be honest to say that. It didn't work. Like, you have this thing where it's like, okay, we're gonna explain this to a new person. I mean, I'm trying to say that so many times, getting people into games or getting people into separate anime, like games, yeah. And I would start explaining gamers to someone that, why is gamers good? And I'm like, oh, it's really good because it has like references to this thing or something. I was like, what gamers? I would say, oh, it's good because the comedy is great, and you know, yeah, I was talking about Teleport, it's really funny, great characters, really lovable characters, great understanding, it's really hilarious, has a great reference to this. I always thought it backwards, say like, oh, it's like it's about like good references with this thing, or and like the quality of the animation is pretty good. Like I would definitely would have started that end right. I would have started like, this is a good thing here, yeah. And then it also has like Mario Kart reference and so on. That's the last thing I would say. Probably. I saw that the major plot lines, like you have this thing, and then the strangle drama. Like, I was started with those things, right? I would work my way down that, explain this and so on. I would have started the order and the DLC is definitely in the last end in games. Like, oh, the game is finished, and then they release a DLC pack afterwards. To explain that to you, how that works. So it's like, you should explain why you bought the game in the first place. Explain to her why it's worth those suggestions, why it's funny, why blah blah blah, and then explain to her why this is also good or something like that. That would make so much better sense. Last point I'll say though, I love that thing though. With Amano, it's like I don't want to make DLC about like role-playing games after epilogue, because I can't see that we save the planet, save the world, that's never right, and all my characters are married and so on. And then we make a display on that. Then they have to fight again, so they have to like ruin their honeymoon. I was like, yeah, I definitely feel that, because like that's a true thing, right? If they make DLC, like most games, it's always like on those kind of role-playing games, it's always like, oh yeah, this other demon guy also is alive for some matter, so you have to go fight him as well. It's almost like Diablo, right? Like Diablo 2 was fine, because there's no Baal is alive. But Diablo 3 is like, oh actually, this angel is also evil. It's like, what? Did they save the planet? Like, oh, you also have this old angel over there, let's go kill him too. It's like, come on, I just saved the planet again. They always had that kind of thing to it. Add in some other new evil guy. Yes. Well, yeah, like by killing this evil demon lord, you summon this evil angel. Like that's how they kind of do it, right? In most games, you ruin the tranquility time there. So, anyways, see you guys next season. Have a great day.